he'll be able to edit this one. Okay.
You'll be able to rename me in that?
You can actually do it yourself.
Yeah, I guess you can do it yourself, actually. I hope so. Once again.
Yeah, you can. You can.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Vinoth, before you quit the meeting after the event gets over, you transfer the host rights back to me, right? Like we earlier agreed. So then I'll be able to download the recording.
Sure, sure. All right.
So now, Vinod, you'll also be able to see if anyone wants to join. So because you're the host now, so I and you, both of us, we can admit people as they come.
Sure, sure.
I think one of our participants, Ashwath Narayana, has just joined. Welcome. Hi, Ashwath. So once we start event now, then Vinod, I think you'll be able to mute everyone. So then you can just say mute everyone when Bhushan is talking.
Sure, sure. I'll put a mute on that.
Also, I think we'll wait for from 5 to 5:05 because usually people take a little while to get in. So this earlier part, now initial 5-10 minutes, Vidit will be able to edit, so it will be cut out. Right. Okay, cool, nice.
You can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right. So I think, yeah, we have hit the time. It's 5, and here we are, and more people joining. And good that you have Sulitam join as we start the initial intro and give an overview of the event design track and the Bangalore chapter initiatives, and then we'll introduce. I mean, we'll move on to the session. So meanwhile, I think, yeah, Bhushan is on, is unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So let me welcome everyone for this first event of 2020 design track, first event of 2020, and we also see this as an opportunity to have more such events on this design track series, and this is third of the events which have been started from October. And before we get into the details, let me introduce myself. Myself Vinoth, and I'm one of the alumni and super junior of Bhushan, our speaker today. And so I passed out from IITB 2014 from industrial design IDC, and so I've been working on our own startup called Palpx Technologies, which is a design studio, also a deep tech solutions company. And to further to go into the details, I will Bangalore chapter president to give an overview of the Bangalore chapter initiatives, as well as the Karnataka initiatives. There's a lot of activities happening recently, so maybe an overview of it, a quick overview of it help. And post that, I'll talk about design track, and then about Bhushan. Please, Smita, I think you're on mute.
No, I'm here. Maybe let's wait for another 2 minutes. So we have a few more people to join. We can just wait for another 2 minutes. Yeah, people are still joining.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of good promotions happened. I think there's a good amount of people turning out. Good to see. And then we can wait for 2 more minutes. Sure. Yeah, so while we wait for few others to join, there are interesting questions we already have received from the participants. I'm quite excited about more questions that are going to come from the audience. So if you have any questions, you could always post it in the chat because we'll be keeping everybody on mute while the session is going on. And if there is any other queries, we could always get back if it is going beyond our time. And maybe Smita, should we start off in another 5?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, right.
Yeah, this session
I think
quite an interesting discussion which is going to be. So I don't want to miss on the length of the talk. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So,
right. So
hi. Hello, everyone. This is Smita. I am the president and executive committee member of the Bangalore chapter of IITB Alumni Association. We are happy that we have been regarded as one of the very proactive chapters in IIT Bombay Alumni Association. The design track, Vinoth will be talking more about it in a minute. So I just want to give an overview, a brief overview of Bangalore chapter. So we have been able to connect 1,000 IITB alum in past 1.5 years. It's a team of alum volunteers who work on these initiatives. So we are full-time professionals, and we also work, for the Bangalore chapter. So also we started the Karnataka Outreach Initiative in October 20 when we created the Hubli Dharwad group and also the Mysuru group. So we've connected about 2,000 plus alum in those groups, and we're still building them further. We also found there was some traction in Kerala and in Lucknow. So we started the, alum networks, which are still being built. So if you have any friends who are also IIT Bombay alumni based in any of these cities, you can reach out to us. The interesting thing which we also did in 2020 was we created a lot of tracks in Bangalore chapter. So currently we have the adventure sports cultural tracks and some very good domain specific tracks, which are core engineering, design, data science. We also have fintech, edtech, startups, and social initiatives. So there are different IT, Bombay alum volunteers who, who act as track coordinators. So here, Vinoth is the track coordinator for the design track. So Ruchin and Vinoth together, they are the track coordinators, and we have a core team. So I hand over to Vinoth now to speak more about the design track. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Smita. And about the design track, so that's one need of the hour we felt when we had, started around 10 different tracks. It's a big thing, thanks to Smita, we initiated all of it. And design track, the core idea is to include the design thinking in the community and in every other business and professional's mind, the way they think and the way they want to approach a problem. And so in that line, we already had two talks. It started with Umesh Kulkarni's talk on brand experience, and second by Rashmi Ranade's reviving copper craft. And it is about bringing an idea of how to see the brand and also about the craft, reviving the the art of culture. And then now we are into the in a talk which is gonna talk about the most modern thing about productization and how we're gonna solve or think for the modern age. So that would be the talk of today. And the whole idea of design track is to get as many professionals who passed out of IDC or the design professionals from the industry to give insights about how that is influencing the business. And and now I think with the introduction of design track, I would like to talk about our speaker today, Bhushan Arun Patil, and who is one of the what do you call, the most diverse person in this design community, who has evolved from the practicing design to advocating product and building products, and then reaching people at scale, and now on touching on the investment part, which is what every good product owner or entrepreneur would reach, or taking ideas to lives. And he is the founder of Multiply Ventures, and also it's a VC firm which is focusing on digital first companies from India, mainly focusing in fintech, retail, edutech, based startups from India. And they have a really good portfolio from the company, which I'm sure all his experiences helped in picking the right ones where to invest, which has a potential to grow. And the best part is that his experience in the retail retail across the globe, India, in the not just from India, like from the emerging markets, and through companies like Alibaba from China, and then Zapak, Yahoo, Talisma, and Vendio, and different companies, which I think has gathered a lot of understanding about reaching out people at scale. So now that's the key word which we're gonna which he had opened up interesting thought process, which I think will be summarized today in the call, and sorry, in the session. And about the session, yeah, I think I would welcome Bhushan to take over from here to and pitch in your ideas. I mean, share your thoughts around the design and your experience. We welcome Bhushan. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Vinoth. And can you hear me well?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thanks, first of all, everybody to join the session, as well as Smita and Vinoth to arrange this talk. It's always good to talk to the masses for design, and almost like still being part of this evangelization of design in the Indian context. Because I think that's the need of an hour. India should be building for global markets, as well as India should be building for the entire Atmanirbhar kind of a model, building great products out of India for Indians, as well as building great products out of India for global markets. So with that, let me start a session. I think before we jump into this topic, let me try to set up some context for everybody here by talking about what are the trends and what is changing when we talk about design. So maybe, but before I jump to today and tomorrow, let's also understand yesterday a bit, right? So, and I'm going to touch upon different kind of products. So a lot of my experience has been on the digital side, but do have a great understanding of physical products as well. I have actually finished my product design from IIT Bombay around 1997, 98. And since then, being kind of part of building new initiatives, products, services, large-scale products. So with that, let me talk a little bit about yesterday's products. So there are a few things on the left-hand side, if you see here. Most of the products, even I think that trend continues. There are still some products which are very specific, used for very specific use, right? So, for example, camera, right? If you talk about yesterday's camera, some of you might not have seen such a product, or might not have touched this product. Most of the old people have at least seen and touched these kind of products. So these products were made for specific purpose. Even website, for that matter, like come to 1998, 99, there were websites, or there were no apps at the time. They created for specific purpose. So camera is to take photos. Phone, a wired phone on our desk used to make a phone call. So communication, if I have to communicate or talk to somebody, I'll go to that particular space and use that particular product for communication. So my entry of a usage and exit of a usage were fixed. So if I want to take a photo, I'll hunt my camera, I'll take it out, shoot the photo and keep it back, right? So that was the kind of a thought, more like a model of usage of yesterday's products. Another thing is also one size fits all kind of model. So, we didn't hear maybe words like personalization, words like fitting the consumer kind of context, or liking, or the moods, etc. Maybe even few years back, and even still today, like some of the products, especially which you typically use in kitchen, they are like one size fits all, right? Most of the mixers are still white, most of the fridges are still white, but now I think that is shifting a little bit, that consumer habits, moods, contexts are taken into account. But yesterday, most of the products were one size fits all kind of model. And even across cultures, right? Given in India, actually, every 200 kilometers, we change the language, we change the eating habits, the clothes which we wear, actually, they also keep changing. The colors which we like, the summers in Delhi look completely different if I go into the market versus summers in Chennai, right? Something like that. So, but earlier so that's another change has happened. Form to formless. I think that's another important thing. I think many times, and this is important for product designers or people who are doing hardware design, is most of the products, you always have to be a little bit aware that am I designing a product which might even lose its form in a due time, right? So there's a clock is always ticking. And there are many examples. Camera has been one of the examples. Camera as a form, camera just lost its form. So you have functions of a camera which remain in the life of people or consumers, but camera as a form just stopped basically it's not getting developed further. Now it's all about mobile phones. People just understand cameras as mobile phones. Another example I can give you, like, for example, cash. We used to carry a lot of cash in our wallets. That has changed to cards. They just lost a form to card, and cards now are losing form to completely like a digital currency. Another example could be the POS machines. Like, for example, in many of the shops actually use the card machines. That has been changed because of, let's say, QR codes of or companies like Paytm, PhonePe, etc. The entire form of that particular POS machine is just lost to a simple QR code model. So what is happening? I think this form to formless transition is happening. And obviously the designers have to be aware of this thing, but there's no point in creating a form which might not exist after 10 years. So there are different aspects of design when it comes to hardware and talking about form and formlessness of different items here. Last but not least is evolving functions. And I'll take an example of Alexa here. So, or even mobile phone today. It's when we launch, let's say, a physical phone on a table, or let's say this earlier mobile phones, they were typically a communication device. And unless you change the product, you cannot add a new function to it. Right? That was a typical era of the old products or even traditional product. My iron suddenly cannot sing the song for me because it's launched with a fixed function of to get heated and press my clothes. Right? That's how it's made with a fixed function model. But today what is happening is products are evolving in functions. And I'll take a few examples here. Mobile phone is a great example. Like Apple doesn't have to launch a new hardware for you to have new functions in your mobile phone, even as a firmware for that matter. Or they actually open their entire economy of apps so that the phone itself can have more functions when you're actually using it. That's one. Second also could be like, if you take an even example, like for example, microwave oven for that matter. Traditional microwave ovens will come with, let's say, 5 settings, 10 settings with few buttons, etc. But today, actually, your consumer can actually create his own settings because now products are trying to map to the personalized experiences. So I cannot actually have, and plus, let's say if I had to create a microwave to map to all the Indian let's say recipes, starting from parathas and back to the idlis and pohas of the world, and maybe, let's say on Kolkata, different kind of model, it's very hard to build so many functions and create like different buttons and patterns for it. So what has actually happened is so they just designed the product in such a way that you can create your own settings. So a combination of 3-4 settings can make you idli, and I can save it. Combination of few of these settings can make me, let's say, a paratha, or help me boil my eggs if I'm using it in a kind of a corporate environment for that matter. So I think what is happening is products today are not launched with a particular specific function. They are also launched with multifunctional aspects of it. So with this, I think this would give you some flavor of what is changing as a trend from yesterday's products to today's products. And a lot of these things will impact you from a design, while designing your actually products. And we touched upon various examples, hardware-led examples, kitchenware examples. We also touched upon digital experiences for that matter. So with this context, let me talk about few insights, maybe next 15-20 minutes. So if I have to summarize now, what is coming in the life of a designer, right? If I'm a particular designer, and we'll touch upon again various examples here, what is changing and what in terms of process, in terms of my thought process, in terms of my tomorrow, in terms of my long-term view, short-term view, is what we're going to look at from this slide here, and maybe a few of the pointers here. So one is definitely the data, right? So if you look at it, and let me talk about the fundamental difference of design processes till now, or maybe even till now, I think many people still follow the same design process, is in a typical design process, or and it applies to even software development life cycles for that matter. Even startups for that matter today, they seem to be new age, but then they still have this model on data. So many of these people, startups, innovators, etc., data becomes a phase. So before I launch my product, I have to kind of do a data collection. I have to do market research, and then I'll come out with certain data, and then kind of get into this product designing and launching of a product, etc. But I think there's a fundamental change which is happening right now. That data is moving from a phase to a constant kind of a entity throughout the life cycle of a product. Till your product is with you, is in design phase, in support phase, and even phase out phase. It's all about that data and how it matters to designers. What I will take a few examples and we will talk about it. So what is happening right now is, if I take, for example, Alexa as an example, right? So, and it's an interesting example because Alexa actually maps to people runtime. So if I have, for example, if suddenly start developing a guitar as a hobby and I want to start practicing guitar, my Alexa doesn't have to change. It will just start adopting my habit and it will learn on its own, and it will try to give me more guitar lessons, or I can talk about that. It can help me record my guitars, etc. So what is happening? This product which was launched, maybe I'm not in launch, but I just bought it, let's say 2 years back, and still mold to my current thought process, and it will also function for my needs of today. Now take it back to the design phase. If I would have only done a design phase research saying that, okay, consumers are going to do these 5 type of functions, I'm going to launch it 5 type of functions. This new habit of guitar, or maybe some new instrument gets launched, or maybe if it's like let's say my iPhone based kind of a piano I want to play, and then want Alexa to be integrated with that. All of these new things cannot really happen. So what really happens now here is, because data is available across, and the data is also evolving, it's not just available across this phase of design, usage, deployment, support, everything. It's also getting evolved as the function as well as the usage patterns. So what matters, what now suddenly changes in the life of designer is, he has to think more multiple functionalities and use case and context of the user and build for it, right? And there are a few examples we'll take here as an example, right? So imagine, let's say Alexa would have designed with let's say it had few buttons for that matter. Possibly when I play my guitar, I had no option to control which button, because I'm actually maybe playing my guitar. I don't have even a option to control my thing, right? So that even that actually as a design input came, because the fact that this data is available and that has to be linked to the functionality and the features of the product. That person has decided, okay, I'm going to throw away this traditional control panels which has got buttons and everything, not even going to use remote controls, but I will just work with the voice. So he's just made the entire form of that control panels of your recorders, music players, and everything before to that form actually just ceased to exist, and it made a formless kind of a product. And then it has changed the communication through voice. So that was the input, because he wanted that product to function for users differently based on the data and the patterns which will come in future. So that's a change which data will bring to your life. Second example I would take, for example, let's say maybe I think 7-8 years back, when I used to take my car to for my maintenance or my kind of servicing, the guy would ask me typically, what are the products, what are the problems in your car, right? Even if it's an electronic, like there are some it's basically a new age car, right? He will still ask me, like, what is the problem? Then I would say, okay, this makes this sound, this is moving, this making chattering sound, etc. Certain things. Today, actually, that doesn't happen. You just leave the car, or maybe the guy will come to your home and pick the car, and then will plug and play their gadgets, and they will kind of send that data out of the car, because the data is created in the product and kept in some small, in some whatever I would call it as a brain in the car for now. I'll not talk about different technologies here. And then that can be deciphered out. Now, imagine, now this again goes back to input to designer, that he has to make sure that all these gadgets are connected. And if tomorrow, if the car needs lots of maintenance, can I create and pull this data so that if a maintenance guy can just put his plugs, etc., and then can extract data. And then you get a call after 2-3 hours saying that, okay, we just found these 20 problems in your car. Which one you want to fix, which you don't want to fix, right? So that's one thing which is also coming, even a post facto in a service or a call, like almost like a support aspect of it. Imagine, let's say your kitchen gadget it's a connected gadget. Somebody can fix it remotely just by connecting with the data. But if you don't build this product to listen to this data or pass this data back to the respective control points or actors in a system, you'll not be able to basically leverage this entire new phenomena of remote servicing on the cost-effective models, and your cost of the products might just go very high. So that's few of the examples how the data is changing. So you have to build products or you have to design products for constant data collections and then take the inputs out. And if you can do it remotely, it's always good, right? And that's what is the trend, and things are changing here. So it's no more like a data as a phase model. Second aspect here I'm going to touch upon is the consumer, right? And this we did talk in the last slide here, that people had a habit of using certain product, but now they are living with the products, right? So I don't just use my mobile phone, I live with it, right? Same thing, I don't use typically my kitchen gadgets. I expect these kitchen gadgets to talk to me. My TV right now, it can tell me, okay, this 3 o'clock, your particular web series is going to come, etc. So people started living with products right now, and there are multiple examples of it. Now, obviously we talk about scenarios, but what is changing for designers or in terms of their process, etc., is you have to build for the livability or ability of these products to live with a consumer, right? Imagine, let's say, create a very cool gadget. It has got everything, but it's connected with a wire to a wall, right? Or to a plug. You cannot actually take that product out and live with that product. But and a lot of your products today, or many of the products today, are actually, the success depends on how much time the consumer spend with the product, right? And it applies to everything, even from your kitchen to your digital product or an app. Most of the companies or most of the successful products have started measuring how do you get connected with the consumer so that he's living with the product. Now, a little bit of extended concept I'll bring in from a design perspective. It's not always a direct living. So you cannot actually take your washing machine and live with it, right? Or you cannot take your TV and live with it, right? But what is happening right now is how do you then get a consumer ability to live with my product? If it's a TV or a large kind of a machine for that matter, even let's say it applies to a larger, even a power plant for that matter, right? There's these panels. Now I cannot live with the product, but there is a certain aspect of that indirect living with the product. So what has happened right now, if there is a failure in a factory or there is a failure in my product, or let's say there is a specific alert or a specific program which I want to kind of watch or connect, etc. So those are available for me in my app, right? So now what you give an indirect connection to a user through the products which he lives with. Maybe there is a wearable which I'm wearing, which can give me alert saying that, okay, you know what, there's a failure in a power plant. Or you know what, you have just crossed 1 millionth customer yesterday or just now in last seconds, and why don't you go in the office and celebrate about it, right? So a lot of these elements are coming, so you can actually live with the product directly, so I'm wearing it or using it, or you can indirectly connect them with the consumer's life, right? So that's another aspect, again, from a design perspective, we'll have to bring in, because the success of many of these new designs and products is lying with how much time the consumer is spending, how much is connected with the product. And those are the aspects which typically were not so prominent, maybe even 5-6 years back, but today that becomes more and more important. Product life. I think this is an interesting thing, and I think every designer should be aware of it. And it applies to everything right now. Imagine, let's say, the cars or the washing machines or the fridges, whatever we used, maybe our parents used, maybe there was one in life kind of products. Today, most of us actually, whatever products I told you, even mobile phones or even the physical phones which were there on our desk in our houses, they didn't change for the life, right? They were like, they just come with a person and goes with a person kind of products. But today we are actually changing products every 2 to 3 years. So what the product life cycles actually from design, from ideation to the design to maturity in the market, and happening within 2 to 3 years. And the way I'm saying that there's a consumer aspect of it, but there's also manufacturing aspect of it. So Apple has launched so many phones in the last 5 to 7 years. We are already in Apple 11, 12 kind of series right now. It's every 1 to 2 years, there's a mandate of creating new phones because people want new features and functions. So what is happening right now is today is not an era where we can say you're going to sit 6 months, 8 months, 1 year to kind of ideate, data collect, understand consumer, create a product, develop it in mold making, or even design it, develop it, code for it, and then launch it, because the life of the product is actually much shorter than total cycle. I remember in my first company, we used to write the specification of product and codes, everything almost for 2 years. And then we launch a version 1. And that version will have at least 2-3 years of life in the market. Today, that doesn't happen. Today, we follow agile processes, etc., to pace up with the consumer demands. And also the vibrancy of options, right? Because earlier there was only possibly Maruti making car in India, right? Or maybe Tata making trucks in India. But now there are so many options. So, and consumer himself is actually looking to kind of adopt multiple new things very frequently. And there is a huge of entire phenomenon, this form to formlessness or irrelevancies are the aspects which designers have to keep in mind. But coming back to the product life cycle, just be in mind that whatever product you're going to launch, you will have only 2 to 3 years time. You will be very lucky if the products see 4th year, 5th year, and still gives you profitable kind of models. Or you might actually upgrade, might have to do a version 2, version 3 kind of products. So iterative developments are required right now. So getting to market faster, catching up the current user trends, etc. important. One thing I'll connect back to the data is data today has a life. Maybe 10 years back when I collect my data, maybe 20 years back when I designed my first product, a lot of my data which I to collect will not change. Maybe almost 2 years in the life of that consumer. But today, if I collect that data today, by the time I launch product after 1 year, maybe that data itself will 100% will change in most of the scenarios. And that's where it becomes important that we have to design and set processes from a shorter life cycle perspective. Next one is connected life and network. This is an important aspect to kind of note here is, we did talk about that, it's you are living with the products, etc. But I want to touch upon a few different aspects here. So when I say connected life, right? And this is, you can see actually many people are talking about this phenomenon of ecosystem. Like Tata would say, we are developing an ecosystem for consumers. Reliance would say, we are building the entire life of a consumer. Xiaomi kind of companies they actually say that Xiaomi Home, right? Xiaomi Home is basically all my gadgets are Xiaomi products and they can talk to each other. And similar products, similar thought processes are coming up right now that companies, because they know I will not survive with just one product in the life of a consumer, I have to have an ecosystem of products. So this is another important thing is, so when you're designing a new product, and even as a startup right now, so if you're not a kind of a part of a connected ecosystem, today most of the startups are part of an app ecosystem, that because they ride on the app ecosystem, right? If a hardware product, etc., they might say, okay, you know what, I will still build on a ecosystem of Android because maybe in the house, most of my lights and products will be connected through some Android or some kind of a home. And there are a few operating systems for home also right now, which you can develop on top of that. So you get a derived connectivity through that network. Or if you're a big company, you can actually create a road network, like a Xiaomi Home kind of a model, right? Now, here, there are a few types of connectivities which are important for designers when you're designing for this thing, right? One, we talk very simple because you have to be connected so they can get the data as a maker of a product, right? So if a designer gets the data continuously, he can actually develop next product better, or maybe the next iteration better, or maybe upgrade the product better. And there are many examples, right? You could, like simple Google Analytics for your website, gives you enough data of a consumer to do something better. Or your kind of A/B testing gives you enough data. Or maybe you have created your product itself can have some sensing mechanisms to get the data, or maybe understand the temperature of the houses, etc., to do something better for a customer. So when I say connected here, so one is the products are connected with the consumer. That's obviously sure. We can see in the example here, the consumer is connecting with different devices here. Second one is the products is also connected to the maker. But more importantly, when I say connected life, the products will also talk to each other. Because consumer is changing the habit from just using a product to using an ecosystem, right? When I want to cook, I don't want to just go to my microwave and cook that particular thing and then take it out and do something else also. And so what is happening right now, people as a consumer are expecting the entire output to be automated. Now, the entire output might mean 3 or 4 products talking to each other. And that is what is really happening here, whether it's a fully automated or it's partly automated, that the when the microwave is ready, he'll say, okay, I'm ready right now. Take the product out and put it on the oven or whatever for the next process, etc. So this is another aspect which the designer has to think from a design perspective. Am I making my product connected in the world which in the world or on the platform which the user is connected, right? So it will be, if for example, if I create a new product right now and put it in completely new operating system, then Android or iPhone or iOS, etc., that might be a silly thing today because that system is not even networked or connected because you just created your own kind of a niche kind of operating system. But developing on this existing connected ecosystems gives you a lever to kind of get more data from consumer, but more importantly, the consumer will be happy because he will live with your product rather than just use the product, right? Last but not least, I think microfication. And this is another important trend or insight I think we have to look at. All the 3-4 things which I talk about, because if the cycles are getting shorter, you want designers or the developers do not have, or the manufacturers do not have longer time to develop. So you are not going to create large new products from maybe in the new times to come. Maybe larger products will be created by Apples of the world, but you will do a lot more incremental innovations in a massive fashion. So because the cycles are shorter, because the consumer demands are changing, I might use this retina function only for next 6 months and something else might just come in from my phone perspective. So because the result of this is microfication. So many of these things right now, if you look at the same product will have incremental additions and people are happy. Like today, many people change the phone, not for changing the entire 100 functions the phone would do, but maybe just those 2 functions. And I still might, that is trigger point for me to throw away my existing 70,000 rupees iPhone and buy a new one or replace that phone just for the 2 extra functions. So it could be aspirational, there could be different kind of demands, etc. But today's world is about microfication. And that's why small is a new big right now. So the smaller innovations are going to win you the big things here. Happening even in products right now. But just to touch upon what has also happened as a trend. So we had maybe a few years back, I think there's some background noise. Hello. Okay. So what is happening even in products like let's say enterprise product, right? Like we had these ERP products, SAPs and CBILs of the world and all these larger banking products. Today they are coming in a different form, right? So microfication is happening. So what happened that entire enterprise software people have done today is available in small sachet kind of products. And let's say Microsoft Project. I think some of the old people definitely would understand Microsoft Project because that was the kind of a Bible for most of the software development guys. And ERPs was for the supply chain guys in the manufacturing industry. What is happening that is getting converted into slacks and small, like this small slice of that entire thing in the world, trying to get massive and scalable productization using microfication or sachetization as an aspect. Or same thing on banking, right? Now, many of the people do not just think people are happy just using a simple Paytm or PhonePe app and managing the banking of it. And there is this entire new banking effect right now, which is going to come up. So I think what is happening is, one is outcome of these shorter cycles is you can develop smaller pieces, but even consumers are happily adopting the sachetization and the smaller models of products. So I always keep in mind that whatever small innovations will bring in, they will be big for tomorrow. And this is here is where all the best example to launch a new, let's say kitchenware, they have to think of hundreds of users and say, okay, maybe for South Indian guys, I'll create maybe some cooking option in this. For North Indian, I'm doing a roasting and frying option to it and that kind of thing. So they have to build so many functions in it to launch and map it to this thing. Whereas today, what happens in a lot of this microfication helps you that you can actually launch a feature only for South India and just as a small feature and still get, let's say, maybe 5-10 million users very quickly. And same thing happened on startup phenomena also. So these are the few insights I would say are bringing some changes to the life of
sorry, can everyone please put their microphones on mute? There's a lot of disturbance coming from someone's end. Can everyone please put your microphones on mute? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mita. So that's the aspect of
also,
microfication.
since we just broke, we have 2 more minutes just to wrap up this thing.
This is the last one. Yeah, thanks, Vinod. Yeah. So microfication, as I said, that's coming. So just to summarize, I think small is the new big, as I said earlier. Don't be shy to doing a smaller increment to your product. You don't have to always come out of larger innovations. So hopefully this covers a lot more insights for you, a few of the points for you to consider while designing for the new world, we call it as, or new consumers, which we are going to see. And happy to take more questions at this point. And definitely keep innovating.
Thank you so much, Bhushan. I think it was a wonderful, insightful talk, I would say. To get to some of the people might have known you already. The kind of questions are very much relevant to the discussion what we just had. So I don't know how to prioritize it. So I would just read out from the order how I received it. Let me start with this question from Srinivas Rao Vangala. So the question was how to design a roadmap for product. So we could take it from there. Yeah, please, Bhushan, you're
okay. Yeah, so I think in this slide we did talk about the process and road mapping. So what's happening right now, I think, and there's no specific science. And then if there are different products of some of these new age products like ClickUp and Slacks and all these products also, or Visio for that matter. So there are tools, but leaving the tools aside, I think these insights, what I've shared here, would be definitely helpful for you. That what are the parameters you should consider defining your roadmap, right? And the roadmaps definitely have to be shorter life cycle roadmaps rather than longer life cycle roadmaps. And keep and you have to also have. I think it's almost like mandatory for now. Be it designers, developers, or even manufacturers to follow agile methods because this clock is always ticking. So I would say my answer to the road mapping will definitely be like keep the roadmaps open, keep launching products iteratively, and make sure that you are listening to the data because sometimes what happens, a lot of data gets collected, but you actually do not listen that data. Your question paper is known, answer sheet is, you have answer sheet, but you actually are not looking at answer sheet and you're still trying to slog around and giving answers. So a lot of time, I think today your product roadmaps, etc. If you look at, let's say 2 to 3 years back, many of the data is actually coming back to you. If you start listening, it's easier to kind of have a product roadmap which is set for success. That's how I would answer that particular question.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll move on to the next question from Jyoti Solanki. And the question is, how should be the ideation done for business which should thrive in rapidly changing technology and economic scenarios? So how is the ideation to be done for the businesses?
Exactly. I think I did touch upon some of that thing, but specifically if I have to answer this question, today the ideation output is different. So maybe 5 years, 10 years back, your ideation output was very specific. It will say, okay, I'm going to create a washing machine to kind of wash, let's say, silk clothing, because people have started wearing silks, new type of silk or linen kind of clothing, right? So I might have created that functionality. But today, I think when we define that thing, you have to give that option to the consumer. So what is happening right now is that ideation. So maybe till yesterday, designers was designing the function what users should use, right? Today, users are defining what functions they want to use, right? So for example, talk about my washing machine. I might set, let's say, okay, I'm using my silk clothing or linen clothing, but I still want to put a hot water. So so you have just empowered the user from a functionality perspective, idea. So that idea, whatever you had, you make users participate to the idea to solve his problem. So that I think one is a fundamental change. I would say you should always think from ideation perspective. You don't have to have precise answers today. What designers actually, and it's to some extent it's easy actually for designers. I don't have to define what works for my product 100% correct, right? I might, instead of having 2 functions, I might set my product in maybe 20 functional and options and give the user an option to set his own kind of a habit or moods and context to it. So to some extent, I think that ideation, the changes to ideation is happening in terms of, I would call it as platformization, or I would call it fuzziness of the outputs in one sense, that and make the user participatory to the output of your idea, right? It's not like you don't drive saying that click this red button only to close that thing, right? Or click this button only to set a particular setting for your cooking certain thing, or click this button, or when you open Amazon, it's only fixed, hard-coded for you. So designer doesn't have to define that. So the outputs have to be more flexibly mapped. So they might design for a bunch of functions and give the option through it, give the option or the responsibility of setting those options in or stacking those options in the context of user, and let the user do it. I think that's one change. Obviously, the second aspect of rapidly changing, etc., we did cover in our discussion here.
All right. Thank you so much, Bhushan. There's one more very interesting question, and we all have this question. And personally, I would like to listen from you. From Vimal Sharma, that's about transition story from product to VC, how and why.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one to answer, to be very frank, right? Because I always wanted to attempt different things. And maybe different people have different answers to it. My answer to it, I think I wanted to use design thinking for various things, right? So throughout my career, the way I do not look at, when somebody says design, I never look at it, the output or the context in which design happens is only, let's say, a physical product or a website or an app, right? I just feel that design inputs are required everywhere. And I've used that throughout the thinking. Like, for example, a startup actually putting down a pitch, right? You still need a designer to put that entire business plan in a context or an entire story building, so that it becomes very easy as a communication design or the story building part of it to when external, for example, financial planning. So financial planning need not always be an Excel sheet, right? And we have seen great examples of it. Like maybe there are a lot of these banking startups, fintech startups. They're not getting funding just because they have so many complex Excel sheets, and then they sit with investors to understand it, etc. There's again a design thinking required here. What is the consumer problem I'm going to solve? What is that complex problem of a stock market or a financial aspect I want to solve? So for me, actually, the scope of design for me throughout my life has been across the spectrum, was not always related to product. And maybe that is the reason why I said that let's start with product designing. Obviously, that was a natural kind of a thing. Then I got into more like I would say, software parts of it. And investor, again, the way I look at it, for example, how do I then now, it's more like maybe how do I give it back now, right? So a lot of my knowledge right now, design, I keep sharing through sessions like this. But then at the end of the day, for design to be successful, you still need money, right? Because without money, the design itself is not a livelihood profession. It's like a farming kind of a thing, right? You don't produce and need design. So I think that is when maybe now I just thought that, okay, how can I support with my knowledge and possibly the capital, both back to the ecosystem. And that's why it's this adopted profession of venture capitalist or investor, trying to look at businesses which have some design element to it, or at least have a specific consumer insight related solutioning into it. And that's my transition actually. But I think simple answer to this is I always think design inputs are required everywhere across the function. And many times especially in India and Southeast Asia, people just feel that designer means giving a physical product or giving a website or this thing, but they actually ideally should be bringing in design throughout their lifecycle, including your financial function, accounting. Look at why should Tally and Naukri.com should be very functional products. Why can't they be great products, right? It's just that, or let's say IRCT, ticketing softwares, right? Now, and that I think that is changing to some extent. But that was my philosophy from early, and basically setting myself to kind of do that transition time to time.
Thank you so much. I think that's quite an good takeaway for all of us in understanding the transition. And the next question is from Gokul Krishnan. His question is, how does one find funds for the idea in the head to proof of concept phase? Yeah, find funds from the idea stage to the proof of concept phase. That's what it is. Yeah.
I think I would not say there's no specific process, just to kind of tell you right now. And I have kind of, personally, I also basically ideated few things, and then sometimes I got funds, sometimes I did not get funds, sometimes I got funds from outside market, sometimes I got fund from within the company, because even within the company, right, you're always striving for your own ideas to get implemented. And in some cases, in my case, actually, some of the ideas which I couldn't get fund, but then I said, okay, why don't I go through patent way? So I just said, okay, if I don't get my idea because it's too futuristic, why don't I get patented, right? So there are different gratifications to the ideation which you typically do. And just to answer, there's no specific process of raising and getting funds for an idea. However, the way I look at is basically the funds typically come for with a notion of returns. Nobody put money for like a black box, right? The money is not going to come back, right? So there has to be a return aspect of it. So I think that's one important thing innovators have to think, that, okay, if I'm raising this, let's say 5 lakh, 50 lakh, 5 crore, whatever that amount would be, how am I going to return that money, right? Now the journey of returning that could have answer in designness element or ideation to it. The journey could be, let's say, productizing it. The journey could be consumerification of the product. The journey could be creating brand around it. That's fine. But it's important, as a designer, you don't stop saying that, oh, I have got a great product and my 20 friends like it and I should get money. You just have to, if you have to put yourself in the way designers put themselves in the shoes of a customer, they should also put themselves in an investor shoes and see that, okay, why should this guy put, let's say, X money? And then how do I get him exit, right? And a lot of times, for example, for us, we have our own money, but at the same time, we have money from the market. So we also have liabilities to give the money back with a good returns to our own investors, right? So that's one aspect, return aspect. I think the good thing with design fraternity is you can actually build a return through a design also. So you can create a great product, and maybe let me touch upon what is that maybe interesting for designers, right? Products, for example, let's look at WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp is a well-designed product. It doesn't need customer support. It doesn't need training. It doesn't need salespeople to deploy and that kind of thing. The product itself talks for itself. So product itself can become a marketing channel. The product itself can become a sales channel. Product itself can be a support channel where the community is getting formed. If my WhatsApp gets stuck, I don't go to help of WhatsApp. I just still ask my friend, how do I do this thing? So consumers are building support systems around it. So that is in the hand of a designer, because you come, and I'm not talking as a designer means you don't have to be academically professional designer, but when you're ideating something, if you build for this, actually you can have a better ROI for an investor, or same ROI with a much lesser cost, because you're not building other functions. Like imagine WhatsApp actually, when they bought over, I think they still were less than 200, 300 people company when Facebook bought them, because they didn't need that kind of a paraphernalia of those set of people or cost or moving elements across it, right? So that's the beauty of ideation. So if you ideate and go through some of the points, what we thought about, the entire network effect, ability for customers to live with it, the communities are getting formed around those products, etc., becomes very interesting for you to design for better ROI or lesser cost into some other, if I look at from a cost perspective, and give better result to the investor.
Perfect. I think, thank you so much. And one more question, which is the last one from Ms. Mutkumar. I think that is also somewhat similar to this question. So the answer what you just said, what should one look for while doing a pitch for an idea? So I just jumbled from the existing question to the ones which asked in the chat. And follow-up question to that is how to learn the various monetizing possibilities for an application.
Okay, I think the second one is easy to answer, because monetization channels, models are already developed right now. So you could say I'm a free application, but people do pay me for ads. You can say I'm a paid application, I make money from transactions. You can say I'm a application which actually lets people connect with the people, or people connect consumer to connect with businesses, B2C applications, where whatever money transaction they do, I take cuts out of it. So what is that? Just have to be aware of it, right? And also put that in a context, right? That's one. Second one, I think, just to answer from a pitch perspective, I think it goes back to the same question earlier. I think it's a straightforward thing. Every pitch has to be different. There's no set kind of a pitch. There's not like a pitch deck, which is like a master, and then you just fill as this number and okay, everybody gets through that. the entire, I think that has not been mechanized to an extent as like robotics and machine learning, etc. That there is still a chemistry to the pitches and chemistry to the investors marrying with the ideas and investing into ideas. And that chemistry is something which is a lot to do with the founders, their kind of a zeal, passion, commitment to that idea. And at the same time, that design thinking, right? I think that's another that can possibly play an important role as far as you're talking about design thinking perspective, right? Is this person understanding a problem, and at the same time, can he even design and solve that particular problem?
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Bhushan. So I think you'll have to wear multiple hats here. So now again on the product line, how to optimize, refining new features versus adding more new features with limited time available. Yeah. So this is a question from Bharat Park.
Okay. See, I think there's no set formula, right? It's not that after version, let's say, it's like for example, Microsoft Word has, let's say, Windows XP, and let's say Microsoft OS has this kind of models, or Word has 1, 2, 3, 7.0 kind of thing. So it's not like always like, okay, after 1, you do 1.2, 1.3, and then you have to do 2, right? There's no set formula to this thing. It is something to do with your consumer and you as a provider of a product or a service. It's basically what is the appetite of the consumers, right? For example, let's say if you have launched 100 features and then consumers are waiting for this extra feature topping to come, and then they're not going to wait another 2 years because you have to bundle another 200 with it, right? So you might take a kind of a simple patch or a version approach and get it done. Versus if you think that, okay, there's a big transition is required, what really happened from, let's say, typical like Nokia to Samsung, or Nokia to kind of, let's say, your iPhone kind of phenomena, the whole thing changed a big time, right? So then you actually change a very larger kind of a bucket of it, right? And that is happening with physical products right now. So many of the physical products, for example, the lighting, if I take this light example, many of the lighting companies are actually thinking of now, how do I connect my light into the consumer's life, right? So maybe can I control it with Wi-Fi, right? An interesting thing there also, like from a design perspective, leapfrogging happened, right? TV had a remote control to control. And there was a time when most of these lighting industry, Wipro, Philips, and all these companies actually started developing remote. Like I can switch on my fan, my remote and everything. Now that is just gone. They just leapfrogged everything from that remote era directly to an app era. So many of these now companies have Wi-Fi lights and those kind of things, or IR lights, etc., which can control from your mobile phones is coming. So some bit of leapfrogging also happens. And that also, again, as a designer, you have to think from, understand that trend and build for that next big thing. Otherwise, you might launch a remote control for your, let's say, lighting products today, but you might fail because people are not finding remote control for every switch on every button or every gadget you have in house. They just have a mobile phone itself. So I think that's how I would answer this question. How you version your product, or when do you do a larger one? When do you do the patch version? Like if it's a security patch, you have to immediately do it, right? You don't have to wait for a bigger version.
All right, thank you, Bhushan. I think we already have hit the deadline, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And what I would do is, as a consecutive question of the leapfrogging, what you mentioned, I will have this question from Ms. Parimal Karani. What revolutionary changes in the form of human dwellings you foresee evolving in near future?
Can you say that? What form of
what
dwelling?
Revolutionary changes in the form of human dwellings you foresee evolving in near future?
Yeah, I mean,
talking about human dwellings. It's about the habitat or the way we are living.
See, I think this is very, very macro. I can talk a little bit about. One is definitely this, consumer habits are changing, right? Consumer are actually like, I think one definitely phenomenon is living with the product, right? That's one thing. Second one is people are consuming they want smaller products to consume, right? They don't want, like in my home, I don't want another big gadget coming like a Godrej, that Almira kind of product. I don't expect me to kind of buy that kind of product. I might buy smaller gadgets. Another important thing I think maybe I should definitely talk here about is from a consumer perspective is empowering consumers. And I think that's maybe a little bit of a different aspect because what is happening, like most of the products, why I like, let's say, Paytm or PhonePe app, because I'm controlling my own financials on my app. I have full empowerment. I don't to go to a bank and the guy on the other side of the table actually tells me how should I do, what should I do, right? Kind of functions. Same thing happening with, let's say, for example, when you go to airports, you want self check-ins, right? Right? Why do you want self check-in? Because people want the control on my own time. I don't want to get into line. I have full control. Even that extra printout costs me money. I'll still want to do it because that phenomena of consumers is changing, that I want to be empowered more and controlling my own life compared to somebody else, right? If that assisted model, like the beyond table kind of model, or the products deciding something for me, okay, the hard-coded settings, etc. is changing. And if it's, I think it's talking about dwelling and leapfrogging. I think another thing, maybe what's also happening is, globalization of products is happening. So I think that's, it's given right now. Maybe a few years back, we were thinking that, okay, there are cross-border boundaries, there are like geographic boundaries or language barriers, etc. Today doesn't exist, right? It's very easy to kind of launch a product in 10 different languages of India or world for that matter. So that entire, I think the geographic, ethnic barriers, etc. are gone completely. And more, like talk about Zoom right now. Today, within, let's say, 2 weeks, we could get, let's say, 25, 30 people talking here. So those boundaries, etc. are going completely. So what is happening right now, the connect to consumer is much more open and easy. And this again brings in another interesting aspect from a design perspective, that and to some extent also brings a leapfrogging aspect of, if I'm using something today, it's very easy for me, or even typical middle class or a lower, let's say tier 2, tier 3 town guy also, to give that product to 100 people, very easy. So that network effect, boundaries hazing out, the traditional boundaries of confinements of cities, geographies, etc., or even platforms are getting hazing out. Microfication is another one, empowering of consumer. People want to control their own life. Like, I want to switch off my phone myself. I don't want somebody to call me after 2 o'clock, which was not happening before unless I pull my wire off my particular phone, right? So I think that those are the few, I think, high level things are happening. And leapfrogging, as I said, I think if I have to just upon talking about leapfrogging as a keyword there, if that is the question, we talked about like the entire, anything which is physical today, always have to ask a question, will the physical remain physical at some point of time? Will this physical, the way it is connected to the consumers, will it be connected to that same medium or not? Because maybe today is a knob, but tomorrow it will be voice input to given to that particular thing. So there is a leapfrogging of interactions, leapfrogging of the entire eras of product. Mouse doesn't exist. It came in the life of most of our people, but most of the new kids last 10 years, they don't know how to use mouse. They start touching any screen which they see right now. So that product came and just, so that in their life, the mouse doesn't even exist. So the whole interaction with screens just leapfrogged. So that's the leapfrogging, and then a few of the topics what this question possibly, as I understand.
Yeah, I think that will answer the question, and I think I would like to thank the people and for their patience. There is one more question, if you can quickly, I just answer this and we'll wrap it up. I know we have extended the time. Maybe in 3 minutes we'll close it off by 6:10. And this question is very long. I'll just read it out fast, and maybe if it is required to answer it in detail, we can send it across later as well as a mail. Reach out to the person. It's from Prashad Barkat. Bhushan, please throw some light on what value do large organizations seek from designers, design studios, and how do they look at employing them? Would this change in 2021-22? What shape would design ops take in the coming years, and does it exist in the organizations today? So
yeah, I think
out of one full question, yeah.
Yeah. I think simple answer to that. I mean, it's a two-way kind of a thing, right? One is designers have to participate in different functions. I think many of time designers actually do not want to participate, right? Like, in fact, this question I got me earlier, one of the earlier session also. They said that designers and product managers, how should they work together and all these things, right? And my answer to that is very simple. Why should designer not become a product manager in their life, right? They should just become a product manager, right? Why should they become like a product manager is my client and I do design doing, right? No, need not be. The designer himself should upgrade to product manager and start doing both the functions, right? And the vice versa for that matter. I think that's very important. So upgrade yourself and participate in different functions. Like, ask a question to your CFO in the organization. How does he, because it's easier to talk to a CFO than a consumer, because he's still far away, right? And very hard to kind of connect. Whereas CFO, talk to him from a organized perspective. There are many processes. A lot of designers, I'm sure that everybody will be filing bills and all these things in the office, right? Large organization, there's huge process of filing bills and then approvals and all these things. So you're solving world's problem. Why do you want to solve that problem internally? So I think and that's the view from a designer's perspective, that we have to participate and solve the problem. There are problems out there. We are not actively solving them or participating in those problems to solve. From organization perspective, I think organization is open. Today, I think many organizations, when you see a job profile, like I want a rockstar guy, I want a rockstar marketing research guy, or a rockstar marketing person, or a consumer person, these jobs are for designers. But designers always think that, no, there is no design or AutoCAD or something written in it, right? Or there's no design or animation, Photoshop written in it, right? So I think we have to also be open to that. Like, okay, these functions, organizations are open, and they are actually typically hiring people with a creative mindset there. And so I think that's from organizations are open. It's just right now maybe we have to be receptive or more open and proactive to kind of approach those job functions. Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much, Bhushan. I think that well summarized the whole aspect of how design thinking and thought process should be generalized to all the problem solving areas, instead of just looking at Photoshop and some tools. And the thinking process definitely needs to be generalized. And now I think just to give you a summary of it, we talked about data, new data, how data is not just in research and the testing part of it throughout the journey of the product and the consumer, and new consumers, the product life, how that is shortened, and how it is important to understand the physical and the digital life of products, connected life, how it is all networked, and microfication of products. So that's a wonderful speech. And I would like to thank you so much, Bhushan, for the insights and all the information and experience that you shared. I would like to thank, first of all, audience here for your patience. Just we crossed 10 more minutes out of your schedule. So I would like to thank few other people who are behind the screen helped us make this happen today. I will start with I would like to thank Devesh Katu, CEO, IITB Alumni Association, and this team. Sharda Sen and Gaurav Shinde for helping to get this IITB event uploaded in the website and all the other mediums, and Devesh again for helping in the publicity on social media. And thank you alumni Abhishek Thakur, based out of Bangalore, for suggesting this idea and letting me coordinate this with the speaker, and also for Ruchin and myself for coming with this poster and all the things related to the promotion. And thanks again Bhushan Patil for his busy schedule, making this happen with all the right set of insights for the current times. And then this can't be much better than now to talk about the products and the network growth. And we thank all the area reps and Vidyut, Rijda, Smita for helping in publicizing the event in the chapter groups and all the WhatsApp and Telegram groups, and Vidyut again for posting on all the FB and Instagram accounts, and Attain you for enabling all the tech support and organizing the event in the Zoom. So that's it, folks. I think we really love the event, and we hope to see more such version of it. Bhushan, it's a request from me, and I'm sure the audience would also agree to it. And we'd like to see more of such events on the services side as well. Now we talked about the product and how services are influencing the way we are living now, and maybe in some time in the future. Thank you so much, Bhushan, and everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Good year too.